Hey there everyone, this is Carrie from Any Day Blessings. I'm going to try and shoot this history curriculum comparison for you outside on my deck today, so there will be some birds and cars and trains and things in the background. I hope that's alright, but I'm hoping to get this in quickly because my storage is not working. So I'm going to hop in and go kind of fast. If you have questions or there's things I skipped over, please let me know, because I'm trying to go super fast so I can get this in before my phone dies. Alright, so what I'm going to do today is not do flip-throughs of all that's here. What I'm going to do is compare things like cost, content, format, level of work and activities and things like that, and just a brief word about how we used it and whether we plan to use it again in our upcoming years. So I do have two children, and just turned 8-year-old and an almost 4-year-old, and so my 8-year-old has used all of these things, and I will let you know what I plan to keep around for my 4-year-old. Alright, so I'm going to pull these away, and I'm just going to let you know that there are several different styles of history that we've tried. We have tried the narrative style, where it was just history told in stories. We've tried the textbook, and we've tried the kind of hybrid approach. That's what this is here. I've done several other videos on notgrass. Just going to have a spoiler alert going forward here. This is my pick for history, okay? This is my hands down pick for American history. Now, I do have another pick for elementary world history, but for elementary American history, this is hands down my pick. This has put everything else that I'm going to show you into one book, basically. That's why I love it. So I'm not going to go into too much depth with this. I'm going to tell you that as far as price point, this is right in the middle of everything else I'm going to show you. I was able to pick just this book up and use this as a read aloud, and then I showed you in the other video that I actually didn't pick up any of the consumables for this course. I just go ahead and do the questions that are already provided, and the mapping activities are all contained within this book, and there's hands-on ideas within the book. So I just use this. This is kind of an all-in-one resource. I don't buy anything separate. You can start to get a little more pricey when you add on the student books and the supplements that go with this, but we have found that just this textbook is sufficient. And again, I'm sorry for the background train noise. I hope you can hear me okay. But this is option number 1, mid-priced, mix of story with the textbook style and plenty of hands-on. Okay, the next choice that I'm going to show you is Heritage Studies 2 by bjupress. Now, we have used Heritage Studies 1, and it is incorporated in their kindergarten program, which we did use the full kindergarten course, so technically I guess we did do their Heritage Studies for kindergarten as well. This is what I would call a history textbook. This is not written in narrative form, but that doesn't mean that it's dry or boring or not engaging. This is, I think, very appealing to a second grade child. There are color pictures and illustrations on every single page. The text is broken up so that it's not overwhelming to the child, and I think, although it's a textbook, I think with the size of it, the soft cover, and the beautiful layout of everything, I think this will feel very much like a read aloud to many children. There are hands-on activities right in this text. There are not questions like review questions or things like that, but there are tests that go along with this that you could purchase separately, and there are even more hands-on activities in their notebook packet. I only use this when we use it, and I used it as a read aloud to go along with something else that we were doing, and I would not purchase everything. This is the most expensive option I'm going to show you today. bjupress is kind of pricey all around, but it does give you a lot. I mean, you really do get a lot for what you pay. This particular course starts off from early exploration and goes up to, I believe, the start of westward expansion, I believe, or maybe just after the Revolutionary War. This might just be, let me just get here real quick. Oh yeah, our first president. That's kind of where it ends. So we just get up to the very early colonial days in this course, and then it carries on from there in level 3. Would I use this again? I probably will leave this hanging around as something to pull out as a read aloud or something extra if my daughter shows an interest. But like I said, that notgrass is my hands down favorite, and I don't see the need to add to it at all. But if my daughter tends to be a history lover, then I'm going to just kind of leave this on our bookshelf to pull off if we need. All right, next, this is another option for a textbook, but this one is much more narrative flavor. This one writes to the child, but it's not a true narrative story, but it does address the child directly. This is my favorite choice for like a 1-year overview of world history from creation to current day, and it covers things like the Reformation, and it covers biblical events, you know, like the missionary journeys of Paul. It covers World War I and World War II. So it really does kind of just, it's like that 1-year overview of everything from creation to now, all of history. So you can see that there are a mix of illustrations and real photography. I believe that this is just the right amount of reading per day for kids in that K-2 range. This is, I think, assigned in their kindergarten or first grade coursework at Christian Liberty Press, but I would feel totally comfortable using this for my second grader this year if we had been on world history this year. You will see that there is the option for vocabulary, some activities, and some review questions. So again, I think you could even beef it up to be for a slightly older child, maybe third grade. But I think primarily that K-2 is the sweet spot for this one. But this is by far my favorite for the world history kind of 1-year overview course in elementary. This would be my pick. All right, now a couple other books from Christian Liberty Press. These ones are truly written in the narrative style. These are stories. As you can see here, stories of the Pilgrims. These take real characters or imaginary characters set in real events, and they tell history through stories. Everyday things that happened in the life of these children, in the Pilgrims, in the pioneers' lives. This one here definitely has a lot more pictures, but is still kind of intimidating to a second grader when they go to sit down and read this. It's a lot of text per page for my son. Now, if you've got an avid reader, or if you're the one intending to do the history reading, then maybe this will work for you. The narrative style approach to history did not work for my son as well. He likes the big textbook pictures, stats, and facts mixed in with those stories, not just the stories. So that's why Notgrass has worked so beautifully for us. The Story of the Pilgrims book, I believe I have an older edition here, but this one had even fewer pictures and they were black and white. The stories themselves were very engaging, and I really enjoyed reading them, and I was surprised my son wasn't more captivated by them, but he just was not interested in them. The Liberty Press or Christian Liberty Press options for history, both the History of Little Pilgrims and then all of these books, are by far the least expensive that I'm going to show you today. They are perfectly fine on their own, to just use on their own. They do have some very inexpensive coloring books and test packets and things that you could purchase as well. But I believe the books that I'm showing you here could be easily standalone books to just make read alouds and have discussion and narration and be done for the day with history. This one here I wanted to show you. This one does have a little bit more of the textbook feel. It has the hardcover, but don't let that deceive you. This is a storybook. This is a bunch of different stories of children walking through real life history events, and at the end of each section they do have some review questions and hands-on activities. So again, if you were to get these books here as your history read alouds, there wouldn't be much in the way of activity. You would have to plan all that out yourself. There are review questions, but there aren't really activities and things like that. This book here, all of that's done for you. You could just do these. We use these as scheduled in Heart of Dakota. My Father's World also schedules this, so sometimes those curriculum providers will also have other activities for you as well to do with this. But if you just pick up this book, you say, hey, I don't really use the Heart of Dakota or the My Father's World program, but I really like the look of this book, you could definitely have some questions and activities to do just with purchasing this book, and it is at the lower end of all that I'm going to show you today. All right, one more thing to show you, and then I do actually have one more to talk about that I don't have to show you. This one here is not a true history curriculum. This is a all-encompassing social studies curriculum. It is written for grades K to 2. Sometimes they say K to first, but I think second grade is perfectly fine for this. This is My Story from Masterbooks. It's right in the middle at the price point. It's a standalone book. There's no other books with it, no teacher's guide, no other student activity books. This is all in one. This is a student work text, meaning they read and learn the lesson and do their work right inside here. These pages I tore out. These were our little what they call quest cards that you use as you go throughout all of these little trips. Each one of these dots is a lesson, and it's a stop that you make as you're traveling around the world. We tore those out to kind of use as a little road map, but other than that, I kept this book all together and used it as a read aloud. We did not actually write or complete any of the activities in here. We just used it as a read aloud. I wanted to show you this. I've done a much more thorough review of My Story, and I will leave that below, but this is just a sample of all the different types of activities that there are in this book. Again, this is economics, civics, geography, history, all of the social studies branches into one. So there are a ton of activities. Now, the only thing that I will say about that, I'm going to flip forward here a little bit. The only thing I will say about having all that variety is that I did feel at times that the lessons, let me just get to the front of a lesson here, that the lessons sometimes felt scattered or random or forced. I love the content, I love what was here, but it felt at times that it was put together in an awkward way. So I felt that maybe the variety was maybe too much, perhaps, that there was almost too much available for us to look at, and of course you can pick and choose what you want to do, but I think I felt that way mainly because well, there was two reasons. First of all, because we were using this alongside some things that we were doing with Heart of Dakota. This is a completely standalone program. There's no need to supplement with this. You can just open this up, do each lesson each day, and be done with your social studies. You do not need anything else. This is completely standalone. And I think that part of the reason that we felt that random or scattered feel was because we were trying to combine it with something else. We felt a little rushed. The other thing is I feel that when you get to the Bible section, they have one day a week, either day 3 or day 4. They call those exercises. So lesson is equivalent to week, and exercise is equivalent to day. Oh dear, now we have a lawnmower, you guys. I'm sorry. I'm trying to hurry here while I still have storage on my camera. The Bible day, when they just took time out and discussed a Bible truth, oftentimes that didn't seem really like it fit naturally into the rest of the lesson. So I'll be honest, even though we are big about giving a biblical worldview in all of our areas of study, I often left it out because sometimes I feel that those shoehorned, just stick it in there things do more harm than good. And I don't feel that way about most of what Masterbooks does, but in this particular course, some of the Bible lessons just felt that way, where they didn't seem to really go along with what else was being taught, or very loosely tied into something that may have been discussed, and so I actually left it out. And if you followed me, you know that showing the Lord's hand in history and science and our world around us is incredibly important to me, so I'd never lose the opportunity to do that. But I feel that if you do it in a haphazard way sometimes, that it does more damage. So, and I don't want to speak negatively. I don't think it was haphazard. I just feel that you just have to be careful about putting that stuff in and making those connections at this age, because you just don't want to make it to seem trivial. So that would be my only kind of negative about this is that random scattered approach at times that I felt with this. We will probably not use this again for my daughter. My son is older, and I will just probably bring her into the history that he's doing. So my recommendation for this one is that if you have a child, your oldest child that's in K1, 2, I believe you could do this and bring the littles in easily with this. But if you have a child that's like 3rd or 4th grade and above, you probably would have a better time at bringing your younger children into whatever you're doing for those older children, because I just don't feel that this would work as well, you know, when you're trying to do older children's history courses and then doing this with your kindergartner or 1st grader. I just don't think that would work as well, just because of the incredible amount of variety that's in here. I think you'd end up feeling a little frazzled, but that's just my opinion. Again, this is in the middle of the price range, so by far very affordable and budget friendly. Okay, so one other thing I'm going to mention here, I'm going to bring back notgrass real quick. I was deciding between notgrass and Mystery of History for next year, and I decided to go with notgrass for a couple reasons. So I'm just going to speak about Mystery of History, even though I've got notgrass here, because I ended up not purchasing Mystery of History. I took it out from my library and I did lesson plans for the first 11 lessons to really get a feel of what we would be doing, what it would look like in our home. And I decided against Mystery of History for 2 main reasons. First of all, I felt that the amount of writing in the course would not gel with my son. Second of all, there were no pictures and there was no visual interest to him that would keep his interest while I'm reading to him. So the stories themselves I thought were very engaging and well done, but look, when I'm reading this to my son, look at all he has to look at. I really just, I don't want to keep coming back to the same one because you have to pick what is right for you, but this is just, I think, the best of both worlds. It's just it's an engaging read, and then it has all this for them to look at. Your maps are in the back. You can just use this book. I just really, this just hands down one for us. And they have the same style of books for our middle school history levels, so we'll just keep using this as we go. But that was kind of the progression of history that I went through. This is where we landed for American history, and we will, by all accounts, we are planning to stick with notgrass from here on out for the other levels of history as well. But that's kind of the progression of where we came. You know, we tried, you know, all different styles, all different price points of material. This is where we landed. I feel like this has been a little more scattered and not as in-depth as some of my other curriculum videos, partly because, again, I'm watching the clock and trying to get this in before I lose the storage on my camera. So please, by all means, leave me questions below. Ask me any particular questions about any of these resources. Again, I'm happy to answer. Or do other videos, shorter videos that would include just a more in-depth walkthrough of any one of these. I hope this was helpful. I feel I was a little more distracted by the outside noise and my camera storage, so if this wasn't as helpful, I'm sorry. But please leave me any questions below. I will have links that I mentioned in the video already. I will have those down below, and I hope that you will come back here and leave me comments if you end up using these, and let me know maybe some of the things that I addressed that were problems for us, maybe how you overcame those, so that other people can learn from that as well. Take care. Bye-bye.